Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here. It is just the beginning of the Monday edition of the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy to have you with us, and a good afternoon. May I be the first to say it's Monday, December 11, 2023. We've lots to do over the course of the next 3 hours before we hand off to The Drive with Brian Wilson. It's episode 472 of these proceedings. Later on in the week, Wednesday, I guess it is, we will have our 2-year anniversary party, 2 years in Middle Tennessee together at noon. From noon until 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Excited about that, excited about the week that is, and obviously not excited about some of the weather that occurred over the weekend, and I want to talk about that, and we will visit it and revisit it and discuss it throughout the course of the day today, amongst other things on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We will visit with Jamie Clary, who is the mayor of Hendersonville, coming up at 12:35 this afternoon. At around 1:05, we will spend a few moments with Freddy O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, and obviously Nashville being encompassing all of Davidson County. And then I think at 2:35, we'll visit briefly with Sumner County Commissioner Tim Jones, who was very valuable in his assistance on Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening as we covered the tornadoes and the other storms affecting Middle Tennessee for you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It was nothing. It was nothing to sneeze at. We knew that it was a dangerous storm situation. You cross your fingers and you hope that it does not turn into a tornado that eventually turns deadly. And sadly, we report to you, as you probably know by now, that this did turn deadly. An F3 tornado struck in Clarksville, that's Montgomery County, and eventually led up into Kentucky. 3 passed away there, including a 10-year-old boy by the name of Arlen. I think I saw the figure that up to 60 were injured. I believe total in the tornadic outbreak, some 80-plus individuals had to be hospitalized or taken to the hospital as a result of injuries. And I'm certain that there were other injuries that did not necessitate a trip to the hospital. Then in Madison, the Madison-Hendersonville-Gallatin tornado was an F2, according to the National Weather Service. And that led to 3 individuals dying as well, all of those on Nesbitt Lane in the same mobile home community, and we will talk about that over the course of the next 3 hours. There's other things to do, obviously, but I want to reflect on tornadoes and our role at Super Talk 99.7 WTN in providing you news and information as the result of severe weather. The aftermath of the severe weather is obvious to all of us. If you've seen any of the images, hopefully you're staying away from some of the areas affected if you don't need to be there, in an effort to allow the emergency crews and emergency personnel to do their jobs. So just to update you on so if you were out of pocket over the weekend, let me just give you my perspective. We were all prepping to head over to Watertown to Brian Wilson's party Saturday night, and obviously did not get there as the call came out that there would be nasty weather. We knew this line of storms was moving through. And then eventually, I think Ken Weaver, as news director, Dan was out in California. He is kind of the head honcho around here. And he was communicating with us from California as to the severity of the storms and just, be on the lookout or whatever. And then when it became obvious that this was a situation that was not just a lot of wind and a lot of rain and a lot of lightning, our go zone, the green light goes off when there's a tornado warning in our listening area. Because while obviously severe thunderstorms can be life-affecting and life-threatening, it is tornadic activity that truly can, in the blink of an eye, as we saw all too well Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, change lives forever and take lives. So typically, and I've been around a lot of different full-service, community-based talk radio stations over my time in this medium, and thankfully, every one of them has had enough resources where if the call goes out, the people respond to that call. So Leviticus was back here at home base on Music Row. Ken Weaver began broadcasting from his home studio in Murfreesboro. I jumped on and started broadcasting from my home studio in Mount Juliet, and Pamela Furr was out and about. I don't know exactly where she was from one moment to the next, but she was calling in reports as she saw them and saw fit to. and actually was not able to call in nearly as many as she wanted to because of cell service and the degradation of cell service in the aftermath of the storm. We also had Chris Hand, who was working behind the scenes. He could not get on air out of Murfreesboro, but he was behind the scenes providing information, valuable information, so that we could provide it to you on the airwaves. I will simply say it is what we're here for. It is, if we cannot provide this type of service to the community, then we're not doing our jobs. And that is the bottom line. So it is what we do. And if we were able to get information to people in a timely fashion that affected the outcome of their individual situations, then it swells my heart to consider that we might have had that level of positive impact on the local community. It's what we do, and it's what we're here for. It drives it home to know that the Nesbitt Lane storm, the Madison storm, by the way, let me say hello to Bell K, who's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. He's doing great work over there on episode 472. You can find episode 472 not only on the radio, but also on your internet streaming platform, wherever you stream music or information on your smartphone or whatever technology you utilize. Type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN, and you can find us there. That's, Spotify and TuneIn and iHeart and all of those. You can also find us on Supertalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Supertalk TV is powered by F&M Bank and the F&M Bank chat line, a feature that gives you the opportunity to speak truth to power, and you may do so over the course of the next 3 hours. I mention all this to say that episode 472 of Supertalk TV is currently entitled
Matt Murphy Show reminds you, a fine is a tax for doing a bad thing. A tax is a fine for doing a good thing. Libertarian lunch, noon to 3, radio station coffee.
Yeah, I had some today. I don't know how it's going to affect me. I was here a bit early. I was a part of the gang of 4/5 amigos. How many amigos can you fit into one little bitty studio? We'll find out. And so I stuck around. We pre-recorded our conversation with Freddy O'Connell that you will hear at 1:05 this afternoon. We did so because Freddy's schedule window was pretty tight with things he had to get accomplished out of the mayor's office with regard to emergency response to the disastrous tornadoes that occurred over the weekend, in part in Davidson County. So I was hanging about and felt a little, I was waning a little bit, needed a bit of a caffeine boost, did not exactly have one, so I availed myself of the radio station coffee.
And now regret it.
Well, I mean, I don't know
come
that.
on, let's be honest. That stuff's nasty.
I'm not full-fledged to regret just yet. Now, that might have, if you watch me get up and just leave, then you know. You know what I'm saying? If I stand up, look at you, give you the one of the, and then leave, then you know what's going on. Anyway, Bell, it struck close to home. Obviously, we love all of you. We appreciate all of you. But when it's someone you know in the belly of the beast, that's a different matter entirely. I noted this morning that it struck a little close to home when, as we were broadcasting, Ken and I were on air. Chris Hand was feeding information behind the scenes. And just to give you, a peek behind the curtain. So as I'm talking, Bell has the ability to talk into my ear. And you would not hear him, but I would hear him to feed me some information. And we do it more rarely than it's done in television. But from time to time, if there's necessary information to get to me and I'm on air, I can be fed that information in my headphones. So while I was on air and I was talking, Leviticus, who was running the board Saturday afternoon, and we got on air around 4:30 or so. Ken was first, and then I popped on soon after. I don't know when it was in this process. We were on air until about 9:30 Saturday night. But at some point, the storms got to Murfreesboro. And there was a tornado warning issued for Murfreesboro, although eventually it was determined that funnel cloud never got to the ground. And so it never fully formed and created, well, it never got to the ground. But we don't know if that is the case when the tornado warning goes off, whether it will get to the ground or not, whether it's already on the ground or not, unless you see that debris signature from the radar. So I'm listening to Ken do a report as his tornado warning siren starts going off. I can hear it going off in the background in his studio. And so I take over, and as I'm taking over, I'm speaking for maybe a minute, and I hear Leviticus in my headphones say, hey, don't go back to Ken. He had to go bunker down because of the tornado warning. And it hit really close to me at that stage that my good friend and our news director, Ken Weaver, can no longer report on the storm because he's in the middle of it. And that drives it home to you. And then I thought about Bell K, and I had reached out to Bell earlier to make sure that he was okay. And he said, yeah, I'm safe and sound. It was freak. Well, I mean, I'll let you tell the story. I mean, you were right in the thick of it, man.
Yeah, I live about 2 minutes away driving distance from where the trailer park was that got destroyed when those people passed away. But, you're dealing with the weather, which is chaotic as it is. But then on top of that, I'm right by a civil defense siren. That's going crazy. The power's going out. It was, hectic to say the least. You're just trying to figure out what you're going to do. We ended up having to go down into the basement and chill there with the pets and each other for a while, and it was pretty crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously. I mean, did you have any trees down on Graycroft?
Not that I saw. I don't.
It's a pretty well-traveled road.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about it is the weather was just nuts. But when I got up the next morning, when I got up this morning, it was relatively, you would have never guessed there was a storm that went through from what you could see.
Well, preliminary reporting shows that about 13 tornadoes total touched down in Tennessee Saturday, according to the Storm Prediction Center. The outbreak claimed 6 lives in Middle Tennessee, including one 2-year-old child in that aforementioned trailer park on Nesbitt Lane in Madison. The Tennessee Emergency Management Agency reveals the counties impacted by the tornadoes and other severe weather include Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Gibson, Montgomery, Robertson, Stewart, Sumner, Trousdale, Weakley, and Wilson counties. There are shelters available for those who lost property. A lot of property was destroyed. A lot of buildings were damaged, hopefully not damaged beyond repair. In Hendersonville, we know that Main Street was damaged quite considerably, and we'll talk with Jamie Clary, who is the mayor of Hendersonville, coming up at 12:35 this afternoon. And as I mentioned, Freddy O'Connell with us coming up at about 1:05. I know that I don't agree with Freddie on some ways that he has managed the mayor's office, and that's all well and good. Pretty early on into his tenure as the mayor of Nashville and Davidson County. That said, when these natural disasters happen, I reach out as a service to the community, not as a service to the mayor's office and not as a way to have him on necessarily, but to get information to the general community about what they are doing to try to provide to said community as best they can. And so we'll do that at 1:05 this afternoon. I've already had the conversation with him. It was a good one because we had to pre-record it at about 11 o'clock this morning due to time constraints for him this afternoon. So all of that to say, your telephone calls available at 615-737-9986. We'd love to hear from you either via the phone or the super text line, 615-737-9986. Other matters going on. I did not know a lot about the name Frank Wycheck until this weekend when it was reported that he had passed away at the age of 52 due to a fall in his home just outside of Chattanooga. Frank Wycheck obviously is a much-beloved Tennessee Titans player, and that's in the news today. There are other news matters to discuss of a national and international importance. We'll get into all of them as we get the show lumbering under its own weight. It's 1220 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, folks, Kraft Body Scan wants to help you during the holiday season. Let's talk about those holidays and how it can be a stress on your body and your psyche. According to the American Heart Association, more people die from heart attack during the last week of December than at any other time of the year. There's a reason for that, folks. Being proactive is the first step to prevent oncoming issues relating to those reasons, like holiday stress, overeating, overindulgence in drinking. What better way to do this than take advantage of this incredible offer from Kraft Body Scan? So these body scans, these CT scans, are normally $1,000+. Kraft has a way to introduce themselves to the community and introduce themselves to you and perhaps introduce you to the technology. They're offering a body scan, a heart and lung scan for you and a loved one for $149. What about that? Positive step in heart health and peace of mind. It only takes 5 minutes. You and a loved one can have a full chest CT scan for just $149. Take the initiative to remain healthy this holiday season and go ahead and schedule this appointment. Even if you can't do it until the new year, that's all well and good. They'll talk with you about it at Kraft Body Scan. Spell Kraft with a C when you look them up. KraftBodyScan.com. That's KraftBodyScan.com. Don't hesitate. Let's get this scheduled today. 615-436-1000. 615-436-1000 or go to KraftBodyScan.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you this afternoon until 3. We'll hand off to Brian Wilson in the drive at that time. If you're wondering what you can do to assist those in need, and while we only had, and I say only, and I don't say that to diminish those that lost their lives or those family members that are suffering right now due to the loss of a loved one. I don't want to seem that way. But obviously, in the midst of the storm, I would admit to you that as the storm was ongoing, I would have been surprised if you'd have told me that there would only be 6 individuals that had lost their lives. That's the size and nature of some of the tornadic activity that we were seeing. And in real time, we were charting a tornado we believe to be on the ground. And on Saturday afternoon, Ken Weaver and I were discussing this Madison, Hendersonville, Gallatin tornado, which started, I guess, west of Madison and ended up almost to Portland and was on the ground for about an hour. I don't know if that's going to be the official finding of the National Weather Service, but that's what we had it as Saturday afternoon in real time. So if you tell me in real time that we would only be dealing with, relatively speaking, obviously, 6 individuals who lost their lives, I would have been surprised by that. But thankfully, it is a testimony to the modern technology available. It is a testimony to the incredible radar and other systems utilized by the National Weather Service and other meteorologists. And hopefully we play a small part in that via the radio, primarily when you lose power. And I even said it in real time. I get it. If there is a storm and you have a choice between watching radar on television, maybe whatever local channel you watch on TV, versus listening on air, well, maybe you can do both. But a lot of people gravitate to that visual image, and rightly so. I get it. What do you do when the power goes off? Well, that's when you go to your transistor radio. That's when you go to your battery-operated radio or your phone, as long as the power doesn't give out on your phone. And you utilize our ability to transmit information, emergency and otherwise, in real time without the need for power in your home. So it's important, suffice it to say. And whatever small part we were able to contribute on Saturday afternoon, we're thankful to be able to be there. In the meantime, it was devastating to some for those who lost their homes. There was a lot of that. We heard a story Saturday night. There was a woman that called in and said that she witnessed an accident. And I'm paraphrasing the story. I don't want to get in any of the details wrong necessarily, but she said that she saw there was a traffic jam and there was two cars, and one car accidentally rear-ended the other car. There was some yelling and screaming, and I don't know if it was the front car or the back car, but you could tell that the individual driving the vehicle was incredibly emotional, and she said the man just began screaming, "I've lost my house. I've lost my house. My entire house is gone. What do you want me to do?" I think this was the person that accidentally rear-ended the other person. Think about that for a minute. You've lost your entire home, all of your material, all of your worldly possessions. Now, it's easy for Matt Murphy on the radio to, on a Monday morning, literally Monday morning quarterbacking this situation, to say, hey, you're alive, family's alive, you have your health, you have your everything in your body. I mean, you have everything. Material possessions can be replaced. Well, that's easy for me to say now. I would never say that to someone in the midst of having just lost everything, because I can imagine it just makes you – I've never had that level of loss where a fire sweeps through and takes all of your worldly possessions, or a tornado sweeps through and takes all of your worldly possessions. I can't imagine the emotional turmoil it puts you through. But I want to imagine it in as much as I want to help. With that in mind, I am told, and I'm looking for it. Bell, I was told earlier that it was up on our website, and I can't find it anywhere. The links. Oh, here we go. I got it right here. Thank you. Cumulus Cares, tornado relief, help those affected. It says affected. They mean affected by the December 9th tornadoes in Tennessee. Hashtag Tennessee Strong. Yeah, and there's a lot of good information on that page there from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, the American Red Cross, Hands on Nashville, which offers volunteer opportunities there. There's information regarding displaced or lost pets. There's a crisis center number. Obviously, 211 is a good opportunity for you if you are desiring to help in some fashion. That's one good way to do that. And then there's a link to the Salvation Army as well. So a link to good information there on our website, helping our neighbors, neighbors helping neighbors on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Toward that end, we'll talk to the Hendersonville Mayor, Jamie Clary, coming up in moments, find out what they need from us up in Hendersonville, get a lay of the land up there. It's 12:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Let me give you the lay of the land when it comes to foundation repair. And you know what? This might affect some of you who have had storm damage in your home or at your home. And I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind as you begin the cleanup. When USS comes out to your house, you're getting problem solvers who want to assess the situation, see what's going on regarding your foundation or waterproofing, and then they're going to they're not going to sell you something; they're going to solve something for you. If you do have foundation repair needs or waterproofing needs, you need the peace of mind knowing that you have the best at your home, solving the issue permanently, where you never have to worry about it again. And that is USS, United Structural Systems. For almost 30 years now, they've been assisting folks just like you in Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama, assisting in foundation repair, assisting in waterproofing, and they do concrete leveling as well with their unique PolyLift system that we talk so much about. So when it comes to those large home repairs, get the peace of mind you've been wanting and get real solutions for you and that largest investment that you make, your home. Call USS. They guarantee their best. Homeowners simply trust USS. Go to USSTN.com online for more information. USSTN.com. You can see many, many testimonials there as well. Or call 615-488-7855, 488-7855 for USS, United Structural Systems. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hope your lunch is going well. Hope your Monday's going well. Hope you made it safe and sound through the storms. Obviously, many areas in our listening audience impacted by the severity of the storms happening throughout the course of Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, to include Clarksville, to include Madison, and, of course, to include Hendersonville. One of the moments that I remember most clearly during our 5 hours of broadcast on Saturday afternoon was the moment that we had an individual tell us that the tornado was going down Main Street in Hendersonville, going down Johnny Cash Parkway, which frightened the hell out of me, considering that we know how many residences there are just off of Johnny Cash Parkway. We know the amount of businesses that are there. And we pray that no one was injured, and it's our understanding that no one in Hendersonville experienced loss of life. To that end, to talk about what cleanup effort is going on right now and what more we can do to help, we welcome to the program Mayor Jamie Clary of Hendersonville to the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. Mayor, I hope you're doing as best as can be considered this Monday in the aftermath of the storms. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I haven't eaten a meal outside my car in the past 2 days, and I've been driving around a ton, but people have it a lot worse than I do. Like you mentioned, fortunately, we had no major injuries, and for the most part, what we have for damage in Hendersonville is replaceable.
So give us a sense of the areas, for those of us who understand Hendersonville like we do. I mean, we've all been there. We've seen the beauty of your community. What was the path of damage as you know it this afternoon, Mayor?
So West Main Street, as you're coming into town from Davidson County, just a little bit up from there, was the first area that got hit. If you think of Biker's Choice, if you think of the Goodyear shop, if you think of you think of the gun store there, a New Shackle Island Road, that got hit. New Business, Big Play Entertainment Center, which is a place you take families and go hang out and spend some money and have your kids be occupied for a little while. That place had just opened up, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not a place at this point that can be rebuilt. It'd probably have to be it'll probably have to be replaced. Really, is what's going to happen.
Right.
The tornado sort of bounced up from there and then came down right at the intersection of Walton Ferry and Gallatin Road. Went through there. Cash Saver is right there. Then we've got a U-Haul there. And that's where it went through the neighborhood that got hit the hardest. Unfortunately, it depends how you look at it. Most of the damage was in businesses that were closed on a Saturday evening. So that's the reason we had so few injuries. At Big Play, they had several dozens of people in there that were trapped for a little while. They all got out. But as the tornado went east from there, it's when it hit that neighborhood, Clearview Circle. And we've got 10 to 20 houses that will have to be demolished, and we've got a house that doesn't have a second floor anymore. Several houses without roofs, several houses with significant damage that just won't be able to be rebuilt. They'll have to be replaced. From there, it then hit over in the Bluegrass section of town, hit several businesses right there, hitting Bluegrass Country Club. Again, places that didn't have a lot of activity on a Saturday evening. So the damage was great, but the injuries are small.
Well, I mean, obviously, Mayor, we're thankful that the injury list is fairly short out of Hendersonville and that there were no fatalities. We know that this was a storm that is and was a killer in Madison, so we're thankful for that. What's your best advice for folks who want to help? How can they assist you? I was just looking on the map as you were talking, and it looks like, are there portions of Main Street that are still closed down to through traffic?
So just today we have everything open. Yesterday we still had some portions that were closed, and then we had some portions that were open for a time and then closed for a time. We really were fortunate that so many people just stayed home yesterday, but we know that we still have about 3,000 people without electricity, and they need to get out and get lunch because at this point we're getting close to 48 hours without refrigeration for them. So we get that they need to get out. We just need people to be patient if they're going to go out. All our roads are open-ish. NES and Carmel Electric are still working, so there might be closures temporarily in some spots. So we need people just to be patient if they have to go out is what we really need. And you asked, I guess bigger picture, what is it people can do to help? We are working on a volunteer day this Saturday and Sunday. And so if they could keep an eye at the city's Facebook page, the city's website, also the United Way's page, that's something that we're going to coordinate probably this weekend. Of course, we're going to look at what the weather's going to be like this weekend to make sure that we can have a cleanup day safely.
Are you in need of anything in particular right now? Many folks want to know how they can give and what they can give, and you mentioned some locations where they can go and find out additional information. United Way is a good place, and we've got one. We've got a locator published on 997WTN.com's website. But is there anything specific? Is there any specific need, water, any of those other types of resources?
Well, thank you for that first. So we're blessed since we're right next to the lake, and Hendersonville Utility District always has pallets of bottled water ready for us. So that's not really a need we have. We have had a lot of people drop off some, so we're more than plentiful with bottled water. We've had a lot of food trucks that have come out to help us out and give out free meals to the folks that don't have electricity. Probably the next great need we have is we're gonna start raising money for employees of those businesses, as well as some of the residents that got hit. It dawned on us that a lot of those businesses, they're probably going to be made whole with insurance and probably reopen and even be made whole as far as the revenue they missed out on. But you've got employees that they're not going to get paid. They're not going to get paid for a couple weeks, if not a couple months, right at Christmas time. And so we're looking at something we can do for those employees as well as the residents of Clearview Circle. But quite easily, we have 120 to maybe 200 employees that just got unemployed. So we're looking at what we can do for them. The cash donations are obviously helpful, but if people want to come and help out on our volunteer days, like I said, probably this weekend, that's a way they can help, especially people with chainsaws, especially people with pickup trucks or trailers, because we want to do our best to get rid of the tree limbs as quickly as possible, because quite honestly, we have a lot of piles of tree limbs that sort of make some streets a little bit unsafe, and we don't want that lingering for a couple weeks.
You know, we were in the midst of weather coverage Saturday, so it's difficult to know what everyone else was doing during a time where we were in the thick of it as well at Supertalk 99.7 WTN. But I understand, I feel like I've gotten in front of myself a little bit. What was your individual experience like, Mayor? And how long did it take you to get out? And do you have an assessment on how you feel like Hendersonville emergency response did, or have you had a chance to kind of do that postmortem yet?
So we're still working on that postmortem. We had a meeting with all of our staff, and one of the things that strikes me about that, with our senior staff, one of the things that strikes me about that is a lot of time we talk about first responders. In this situation, our first responders were fire and police. But it's also our public works guys that were cutting up tree limbs just immediately while still in the rain, literally still in the rain. And then it's our codes guys. It's our codes enforcement officers who are going out and checking buildings and letting people know within hours of damage to their building whether or not that building is safe or not. And that includes houses. And that's hard because you've got people that are telling residents you can't stay here, and that's their house. That's really, really hard. But the way that we responded, especially our staff, was just immediate. We also, and it gets a little bit off track here, but quickly, I got phone calls from the mayor of Nashville, the mayor of Gallatin. They have provided help. The Sumner County Sheriff's Office, they have provided help. Tennessee Highway Patrol. I joked with somebody today that I'd never been so excited to see a highway patrol officer behind me. It's because they were coming to help us direct traffic. To give you a sense of what it was those first 24 hours, we had no operating traffic signals on Gallatin Road. So the fact that so quickly we had other mayors reaching out to provide us help and to send us police officers that could direct traffic, that was huge. Because so many of our, the 15 traffic signals we have on Gallatin Road, major intersections, you need 3 and 4 officers to handle the traffic direction at that point. So, like I said, very quickly we had folks that were reaching out to help, and it was almost overwhelming, but we found a way to put them to use.
Jamie Clary is with us. He is the mayor of Hendersonville, talking about the results of the storm from Saturday night, cleanup efforts from yesterday, and those cleanup efforts are ongoing today. Obviously, we're going to try to spend some money in your neck of the woods, Mayor, very soon, because I know that those businesses appreciate it. I know your city appreciates it. What more can we do for you? What else do we need to know that I haven't asked you about? Anything?
So there's a couple of things that I don't want people to do. Is I don't want people to come into West Main Street. I don't want people coming down Gallatin Road if they're just going to look. I hate to say that because it seems sort of ungrateful, because I know a lot of people that are coming to look might be coming to help as well. But it's patience more than anything else, and then do exactly what you just said. Come spend some money at those businesses, because it's going to take some time and an awful lot of sweat from those business owners. So many of those business owners that are affected, they're not franchises, and they're not managers. They are the owners, and they're local people, and so they're the capital resources that they have, and it's not what a lot of businesses that they have, and so they're going to struggle. And anything that folks can do to come spend money with them, that'd be wonderful.
While you may have mentioned this, and if you did, I apologize. I'm trying to catch a lot of the information that you're throwing at us in real time. But do you have an assessment as to the number of buildings damaged versus destroyed, or are you waiting for those final? It's been so. I mean, it feels like it was a week ago, but it was just a couple of days ago. Do you have those figures?
So I could tell you that we have, I'll say at least 12 houses that are completely destroyed or will have to be demolished. We have at least 20 businesses that's the case. Now, both of those numbers could triple, and this is why, is some of those houses, we still got to get some trees off them to figure out what's going to happen. And some of those businesses are part of a strip center, and one part of the strip center is useless. But a couple of the businesses that are down, a couple hundred feet, they're going to be okay. It's going to cost them some money to get back up, but they're going to be okay. So we will. So those numbers that I gave you are just going to go up.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that. We're seeing that. Every couple hours.
Mr. Mayor, get yourself some food that's not, that you're not eating while you're sitting in your truck or your car. Okay.
So yeah, but I appreciate you guys keeping focus on this, because that's what we need, and for people to understand that, yeah, it's newsworthy one day, maybe 2 days, but it's something that people are going to suffer under the effects of for a long, long time. So I appreciate y'all keeping attention to it.
Well, absolutely. It's our pleasure to do so. And let us know if there's anything else we can do or any information you need to get out. You've got our number, and we're here for you, Mayor.
Okay, Val, thank you so much. Val,
right.
Matt, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. There's Mayor Jamie Clary joining us from Hendersonville, talking about some of the devastation up there. Thankfully, I mean, incredibly. And it really is not a testimony. I'm not saying this as a way to pat Supertalk 99.7 WTN on the back. I'm really not. But the modern technology that's available for us, giving us the ability to utilize not so modern technology, the radio airwaves, to impart the information to you that is impactful to your life in real time is incredible. Ken Weaver and I experienced it Saturday night, where we were, and we've been doing this over the last several years. I know for those of you who are a part of the tornadoes of a few years ago, you remember Supertalk was here. I was not here at that time, but I remember back in my day in Birmingham, Alabama on April 27th, 2011, when 250 people died as the result of that tornadic outbreak. Even then, even in 2011, 12 years ago, we did not have the modern technology that gave me the ability to do what I did on Saturday night, and that is literally read off street names. I mean, you don't want to scare the heck out of people, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they know. And so these radar technologies that can separate wind and rain from debris and pinpoint where the wind shift is going, where the circulation is, and where the debris signature is, and you put all of those things together, you have a tornado on the ground, and that's just radar indicated. Well, you get some visual confirmation of it, and you know that you're dealing with something here, especially when that debris signature is there. That gives me the ability to look at that radar and say, literally, if you're on this street, if you're on this street, in this block, in this neighborhood, you need to be in a basement or crawl space. You need to be in the lowest level in the interior room because a tornado is on you. And we don't do these things to scare the hell out of you. We do these things to save your lives, or to at least help facilitate and make you aware of what's going on around you so you can make grown-up decisions in emergency circumstances. And I'm thankful to be able to be here and do it. It's 1250, Supertalk 99.7 WT. And quick timeout. When we come at 1:05 or thereabouts today, we will speak with Mayor Freddy O'Connell. We had that conversation about 2 hours ago. Freddie's got a lot of things going on, so we went ahead and had that conversation, and we'll rack that for you at 1:05 this afternoon on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Well, Jeff Eddy wants you to know if you have damage to your home due to the storms and you're concerned about your AC, or more importantly, with these cold conditions, your heater, he's here for you. Efficient Heating and Cooling wants to make you aware that they're available. Their techs are ready to go, raring to go to help you get right. It can be hard to find someone you trust in this business, especially during these uncertain times. Jeff Eddy is that person that you can trust. I trust him implicitly. I trust him in my home, and I know that you can trust him in your home. Keeps overhead down to keep invoices small, never charges overtime on the weekends or during the evenings. You pay the same 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's their commitment to you at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Plus, when the time comes, if your unit is damaged beyond repair, then you can have a new unit, Diamond Contractor from Mitsubishi Electric, if you want to go that route, or perhaps you want to go with gas, and they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net, or give them a call today, 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Couple of moments before the top of the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There are other matters going on outside of conversation about the storms that hit us on Saturday and the cleanup effort that ensued Sunday. I experienced something yesterday afternoon I want to relate to you at some point over the course of the day. It involves a business by the name of Roy Meat Service. I went and met Jeff Roy, the owner of Roy Meat Service, and talked with him about the lawsuit that's going on against him. You will absolutely not believe it. Hopefully, we're going to have Jeff on the show at some point this week to tell you all about the lawsuit. He's got to check with his lawyer to make sure what he can and cannot say, which is understandable, but had a great conversation with him yesterday. Want to relate some of that to you as well. Joe Biden loves to tout his ability to compromise, yet he becomes the non-compromiser in chief when it comes to our southern border security. Did you know that we have 5,000 individuals coming through unabated the border on a daily basis? And on some days, much worse. On some days, it's up to, I think one day last week, there were 12,000. These were not gotaways. These were not unseen individuals, obviously. In order to count them, you have to see them. You have to know that they're coming through. Yet they let them go with a promise to return. With a promise to return. It is an invasion along our southern border that needs to be dealt with. Yet our president of the United States says no compromise when it comes to funding Ukraine. He cares more about Ukrainian borders. Whatever your position is on Ukraine, the president of the United States cares more about Ukrainian borders than he does about our own. And that is a sad state of affairs. Speaking of sad, I will also relate the story about the trailer on Nesbitt Lane that flipped on top of another home and eventually killed 3 individuals. And it has been said that the mother that was found dead was found clutching her 2-year-old child who was still in her arms. That just breaks your heart. Absolutely breaks your heart. We'll continue to diagnose it and break it down. We'll do so with Freddy O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hang in there. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We continue on the Matt Murphy Radio Show, primarily focusing, obviously, on the devastating tornadoes and other storms that affected Middle Tennessee throughout the course of the weekend. And we are happy to be joined by Mayor Freddy O'Connell, Mayor of Nashville. I wish it was under different circumstances. Mr. Mayor, thank you for making the time. I know it's an incredibly busy time for you this Monday in the aftermath of what occurred over the course of the weekend. Thanks for being here, Freddie.
Well, glad to, Matt. I know you've kept your listeners informed, and we really appreciate that because this is having access to high quality information in the wake of a disaster is incredibly important for everyone's safety, everyone's access to resources. So really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's a time to remind ourselves that, we can debate politics, we can debate policy, we can talk all of that till the cows come home. But when it matters most, we need to be here for our neighbors and our loved ones in and around Middle Tennessee, particularly in Davidson County. Give us a sense of what you have seen, what you've been able to assess, and what we know about these storms that obviously were devastating and deadly Saturday afternoon and evening.
Yeah, and the path I traveled personally, and then knowing what the whole of government and the incredible partners we've got, not just in our nonprofit, but our state and federal partners as well. Everyone's been active here because we know Nashville was not the only community impacted. We saw I was actually in touch with Mayor Pitts in Clarksville early before we had even been through the tornado process, and we were activated through TEMA, supporting them with EMS and medic resources. And then, like probably a lot of Nashvillians, I heard the sirens go off and got alerts on my phone, and we actually, after 2020, got a real tornado shelter, and it was one of those things that feels like a good decision now because that's where our family spent the next period of time until the warning had expired. And then as I was in there starting to see where the path of the storm was taking it and what the severity of the warning was, and watching it become a tornado emergency as it headed up into Hendersonville, we knew that it was very likely to be pretty devastating. So I got over to the Emergency Operations Center as soon as it was safe enough to be out on the roads for this purpose, just to see what we knew and understood. And unfortunately, by the time I got there, we had already confirmed 2 of the 3 fatalities, and by later in that evening, we knew that we had 3 Nashvillians killed by the storm. So that was the hardest part of the entire day, is knowing that you've had not just the devastation of a tornado, but tragic loss of life as a result of a natural disaster. And so kind of spent the evening just making sure that we had complete understanding of where the damage was worst. I touched base with several council members personally that evening, checking on the status of things kind of in the northern parts of Nashville and Davidson County. And we had lots of reports of photos and videos coming in, lots of personal accounts. And so most of that first period, while it was dark out and still had pretty bad weather, we were just focused on safety and making sure we understood if anybody else was at risk. And so far this morning, as we're talking, I guess the somewhat positive news is we have not documented any additional fatalities or serious injuries. Mostly now we're assessing property damage. So by Sunday morning, when the sun came up, I did get out to a part of Madison where some of the damage was worst. And, we were there on the ground, checking in on people at a personal sort of door-to-door level, and, making sure people understood all of the safety precautions, because in the area that was hardest hit, you really had power lines kind of literally tangled up in people's homes that weren't even always in their original positions, right? And so as people were trying to recover belongings, we tried to make sure urban search and rescue and fire department personnel and police personnel with real equipment were there instead of people with chainsaws trying to access stuff, just because you want people to be safe. There are live wire scenarios, and that's what most of the road closures were about, was electrical equipment that really was crossing the road, like things that were worse than a tree down. So want to give incredible credit to first responders. We had police and fire out that night. Of course, NES and NDOT both had their crews out, and all of those response teams were focused on people's safety. And then, the other hard part about yesterday was, though the day was full of sunshine and the weather was relatively nice, by the time the sun set, we knew it was going to get very cold last night, which it did. So we had not just the American Red Cross shelter site set up at the Madison Community Center. We also had an emergency weather overflow shelter set up, operated by Metro Social Services. And so, just trying to make sure people had safe places to be. I think Nashville generally responds very well to these scenarios, though, that I think people understand that if a road's closed, it's for good reason. And
right.
So we had pretty good response from the public. And I will say, too, I was very, very pleased by the level of offers of assistance. And so that's one thing I want to be very clear about, is we have a very good volunteer organizations active in disaster VOAD system here in Nashville. And so they're already up and running with a great online resource. It's just NashvilleResponds.com. And that's one thing I'm especially proud of, is literally how Nashville responds. So we had whole of government there, but if you visit NashvilleResponds.com, it's where you can request assistance if you need it. If you're need temporary shelter, if you need other forms of assistance, it's the one-stop shop to go request that. And then if you want to make donations, we've got a brand new model for financial assistance from disaster set up with partnership with United Way and Community Foundation in Middle Tennessee. And that is all there. And then their Hands on Nashville, as a part of the effort, is going to be putting up volunteer opportunities as well. So it's not only a way for people who have been impacted by the tornado to find assistance there, but it's also a way for the general public to jump in and participate and be a part of the response. And so, I'll just share with you. Go ahead.
What I was going to say, Mayor, that, it occurs to me as you're talking, relating some of what you've seen in the stories, that for you as mayor, it has to be the worst of days and the best of days. Obviously, you're assessing property damage, material loss. You're also assessing injury, and unfortunately, in the Madison situation at Nesbitt Lane, 3 fatalities. But you're also watching Nashville at its best in the aftermath of these storms, as people come together, as Middle Tennessee comes together to try to help their neighbors.
Well, and you said it up front. I mean, what I have observed, and this is true of Tennessee broadly, I think, is in a crisis, there are no enemies, right?
That's right.
We have all come together. I was in touch with Mayor Pitts in Clarksville, but after that, I was in touch with Mayors Brown and Clary in Gallatin and Hendersonville, respectively. I've been in touch with the mayors of Springfield and Sumner County, and this is what we're supposed to do. We had very good contact with the governor's office. We had very good contact with Congressman Green and Congressman Rose's office. We had very good contact with Senator Haggerty's office. I mean, all of the things that you want to see with not just Nashville, but Tennessee and frankly, the United States at its best, is when everybody is focused on helping people through crisis. And we've seen exactly that. And to your point, I couldn't be prouder of our local government's response. We have that great VOAD system. We do have that great interaction with state and federal partners. But I mean, watching at the Emergency Operations Center, our Office of Emergency Management, our firefighters, our police, the Department of Emergency Communications, which handled all the dispatch activity through that moment, our Department of Transportation out there, clearing trees and keeping roads safe and helping with detours, our local utility, NES, out there working not just through the aftermath of the storm, but through the cold last night, to the point where we've gone down from 45,000 to just, when I woke up this morning, just 6,000 people still out of power after a tornado that bad is pretty impressive.
I was gonna circle back to that, and so the figure that as we talk, and just in the interest of disclosure, Freddie's day is so busy. We're talking just before I actually start the show, so you'll be hearing this a little bit later. But as we sit here just before noon, we're at around 6,000 for NES. Is that right?
Yep.
That's great news. I mean, I know for the 6,000 that are without power, if you're listening on a radio somewhere, I'm sure Freddie's working hard to get your power back on, but that's good news. That's a better figure than I thought that we would have on a Monday morning.
No, and that's full credit to NES and their line crews. I mean, they truly have been out around the clock. I mean, I saw some of them last night when I was driving around, and it was, it's very I will say it's unsettling to be out after a day where it has felt like, okay, the storm has moved on and it's bright and sunny, and then
right.
the sun sets, temperatures dropping, and then you get into a part of the city that you can tell the tornado's been through here because it is just so dark, right? I mean, and right. You can see the roads are less safe, the areas are less safe, and so, and credit to them because they had a substation that was damaged, and they had several poles that were down completely, or, I personally saw several where the top half had just snapped off and the top of the pole was dangling there right over the road, just held up by the wires that was still connected to. But, that kind of damage is, the fact that they can get all of that stuff replaced in just a matter of hours in some locations, but also know that they're dealing with a substation damage. But, we even had our parks department. Their staff were on site with the American Red Cross shelter, ITS, our, basically technology division, supporting all of the incredible stuff that's happening at the Emergency Operations Center. We had legal and finance involved because we did declare a state of emergency. And one of the things that happens here is you do that because we do expect, it's not a guarantee, but given where we are on state and federal conversations, we expect that there will be and I expect FEMA will get engaged, and this
right.
will be a disaster declaration. But, Codes is out there today doing property assessments. General Services is out looking at public buildings. Our HR division checked in on employees in Metro because we know we had several Metro employees who live or have family in the path of the storm. And our mayor's office team was incredible. And I guess, again, it's a bittersweet thing to know that you've had to have gotten fairly good at disaster response at this point. But, Nashville has certainly endured a lot over the past couple of years. And so,
well, and you hate the idea of testing those services in
right,
real time,
right.
But at the same time, have you had an opportunity to process that? Is it too early to do that, to kind of go back? I know that you'll have a chance at some point as mayor to go over all of that, to make sure that everything flowed as it should. I don't imagine you've had that chance yet.
Not yet. We had a quick postmortem this morning. There was a meeting out at the EOC today, and there, with everything like this, the Office of Emergency Management does do an after-action assessment of things. We'll do our own in the mayor's office because we want to make sure we perform to the best of our ability and improve for next time if there's anywhere where we came up short. But the responses, the feedback we've had from the public at this point have been encouraging about the overall response. And again, credit to everybody I just named. This was not, look, I had the opportunity a few weeks ago as a part of the transition process to go out and visit the Emergency Operations Center. And as I was standing there, I was thinking, it'd be really nice not to have to come out here at any point.
No, right.
And
no, I get it.
We're not even through the first 100 days. And there we are with it activated. And, so you want to be serious and responsible and focus on people's safety and well-being through all this. And credit to the teams that were out there being a part of this. And I know for your listening audience, it's just, we were having conversations this morning. It was just 3 years ago. And, thinking about our older daughter and her memories of that night. It's just tough because if you live through it once and you're anywhere close to the path of the damage again, it feels like, oh gosh, we just did this. And
thinking about the 6 that passed, the 3 in Clarksville, and obviously the 3 here in Davidson County in the Madison area, Joseph Dalton, Flora Dima Perez, and her son Anthony Mendez, killed in the same area on Nesbitt Lane. Thinking about those folks and thinking more broadly about the giving nature of our community, as we wrap up, Freddie, tell us what we can do, how we can help specifically for those families, or how we can more broadly help. What is your advice to the citizens listening right now that want to lend a hand?
That's that one URL I'll just keep going back to is NashvilleResponds.com, and we know Nashville will respond, and we've already had a lot of interest in that. I did get to be out there and visit with the husband and father who lost not just everything, including his home, but those two members of his family. So it's really, really tragic. And Matt, I apologize, I do have to jump.
No, I know you do. I know you do. Well, look, thank you, Mayor. We'll talk again very soon, and good luck as you continue to clean up and lead those efforts. Thank you. Let's talk about life safety for a moment in the context of your business, your school, or your place of worship. It's Matt Murphy for Defend Systems, an active shooter and physical security expert firm for a dangerously developing world. Defend Systems, their expertise lies in their experience. They have well over 1,000 real-world active experience in over 2 decades of time with the Metro Nashville Police Department, among other departments. Their training and their expertise and their information and knowledge, it informs and provides and creates a system that works. Defense Systems can conduct active shooter response training in your facility, workplace violence prevention, site survey, threat assessment, rapid response medical training, all customized for your facility and all designed for your needs as a business, a school, or a place of worship. So I like to say hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained, and that is true. While the odds of you experiencing workplace violence are minuscule, they're not zero, and that matters, right? So let's get trained. With Defend Systems, they are the best. Call Brink Fiddler and his team at Defend Systems at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or defendsystems.com. Once again, defendsystems.com. A great location to tell you about during the holiday season especially, but really any time of year, is Savory Spice, and there are actually 2 locations in the sound of my voice. One is on Charlotte Pike, Ellendale Market in Nashville, Tennessee. The other's in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. Go by to either of those locations, and you will find the great deliciousness that is Savory Spice. I like to say that you up your food game by upping your spice game. You up your spice game at Savory Spice, and it is simply the truth. They have mixes for you, meaning they've put spices together for different food items that you can easily prepare in your kitchen, no matter the level of expertise that you have in the kitchen. You can impress your loved ones this holiday season with some delicious recipes right there available at Savory Spice. Now, if you know your way around the kitchen and you're looking to replace some spices for the holidays, it's time to get it done with Savory Spice. You've got a couple of weeks before Santa Claus comes down the chimney. So go by and see them at Savory Spice. They have deliciousness. I think they have limited supplies. I've sold them out of glitter syrup. And I'm sorry for those of you who are looking for it and you can't find it. I think the small bottles are gone, and the larger pint-sized bottles, if you will, are going to be gone soon. So if you're looking for that, they may be already sold out. The glitter syrup is a big top seller this time of year with the kids and with the mothers and fathers of the kids as well. Popcorn Spring. I think about so many different things I can't even name it all. Go by and see for yourself. Smell the smells. Taste until your heart, taste as much as you want. They've got taste testing available for you at Savory Spice. And tell them I sent you to the one and only Savory Spice. Phone lines available. Also, Super Text line is up and running. Thanks again to Jamie Clary of Hendersonville, Mayor of Hendersonville, speaking with us in the 12 o'clock hour. And thank you to Freddy O'Connell. It was our first opportunity outside of, I guess we spoke with Freddy right after he was elected. That's our first chance to speak with Freddy since he's gotten his feet underneath him as mayor of the city of Nashville, Davidson County, the metro area. So we appreciate him spending some time and coming on with us. And I just wanted to get out of the mayor's way and let him talk, and he certainly did with regard to what he saw, what he experienced, what the people of Nashville experienced in the aftermath of the storm that hit Madison and the Hendersonville areas. That storm killing 3 on Nesbitt Lane, the storm in Clarksville, the tornado in Clarksville, I should say, an F3 variety in Montgomery County, killing 3 up there as well. 6 total. A lot of homes destroyed, a lot of property destroyed, and obviously our heart goes out to those folks. If you want to help one more time, and we'll move on to a few other stories here in just a moment, go to our website, 997wtn.com, and you can click on the link that you'll find there on the Super Talk. If you go to the website, you'll see our video feed right at the top of the page. You'll see it says, "We'll be right back." I don't know if that's old or not. I think we should already be back. And then you'll see the I call it the slide. It's where you see my face and Chris Hand's face and Brian Wilson's face and Dan Mandis' face. And if you click on that and just hit forward, you will get to, look, there's a steeplechase tickets that will be available, Christmas, and then there it is, tornado relief. Click on tornado relief when the slide comes up, and it'll take you to the Cumulus Cares page. And you have a lot of information available for you about the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. You can make a donation there. If you appreciate the United Way, there's a link to the United Way, American Red Cross. I'll say this. I know that sometimes as we break it down, the American Red Cross can be frustrating in terms of the money that is spent in administration. But there's no better organization in times of immediate crisis and need, and they are partners that are working around the clock, attempting to make sure that everyone has a safe place to stay, food to eat, critical relief supplies, and other support and comfort that they need in the face of these devastating tornado outbreaks. So they're a good organization in these particular times. There's also a couple of different organizations. I won't go through them all. But they are there. There's also a link. I would say this because you know me and pets, you know me and dogs. Metro Animal Care and Control, they're focusing their efforts on emergency dispatch to try to find injured animals still today even. They want to try to facilitate lost and found efforts. Even families that are coming back to homes that are partially destroyed or homes that are damaged in some fashion, the last thing they need is to worry about their dog or their cat. And oftentimes those dog and cats have run away and they're frightened, maybe don't know how to get back or can't. And so Metro Animal Care and Control, MACC, is an organization that's there for you to try to find your pet. And you can post. They invite you to, if you find an animal, to post on Facebook and Nextdoor, and you can contact those guys. Their link and their locations and all of that on our website at 997WTN.com. That's 997WTN.com. 6825 wants to know from the super text line, what is the best way to troll Matt Murphy? Well, I think you probably found it on the super text line. There you go. Let's see. Someone wrote in regarding, and I want to relate this real quick. So during the storms, did you think about the caller you were so rude to on Friday? AM has its place. Like other old tech, its uses are overlooked. I still think you owe the caller an apology for not allowing him to express his opinion without bias and interruption. Every source of communication should be thought of. I think you all did a great job. I was listening. If things had been worse, would you have thought of AM to reach out to those looking for shelter or a place to go? In a time, and just to answer your question without regard to our conversation on Friday, I'm not anti-AM radio. I'm anti-government interference into the private means of production. My concern with the calls to, quote, protect AM radio and electric vehicles is that it is really not the place of the government of the United States of America to demand that private manufacturers include in their product specific things that the government of the United States of America wants them to include. You start going down that road, that's a long road to hoe, as my grandpa used to say. That said, just specific to the nature of your question, there is nothing in times of natural disaster that we cannot do on FM radio that we could do on AM radio. Our limitations are the same in terms of our tower and our transmitter. If a storm hits our tower, if a storm hits our transmitter, regardless of whether we are AM or FM, we will be off air. And I think there was a radio station, I want to say there was a radio station in Tullahoma that went off the air Saturday afternoon because I got alerted to it by a listener down there who they were listening, I think, to local radio, and then they flipped over to us here in Nashville, emanating out of Nashville, but we reached down there because of the size of our signal. So there's really nothing that you can do on AM that you cannot do on FM from a localized standpoint. AM obviously goes further if unlimited. It can go further, particularly at night. That AM skip signal goes a lot further than the FM signal tends to go. So just covering that for you. And as far as your concerns about my position on AM radio, I wasn't trying to be rude to anybody. I don't think I was rude to that caller on Friday. I thought we were very respectful. We had a good conversation. As a matter of fact, the caller later on cut back to me on social media and said thank you for the conversation, and he wasn't upset at all regarding our back and forth. Debate does not necessarily mean argument, and I do my best. I know that I'm hard to some callers. I do not suffer fools gladly. I admit that, but we try to be as fair as possible. 132 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back in a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 137. Good afternoon. Open phone lines, open super text lines as well. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. We'll move away from our continuing storm coverage for a moment, tell you some of the other matters going on around the world and around our community you need to know about. We'll be back to it at 2:35 this afternoon. We will speak with Tim Jones, who is a Sumner County Commissioner and who was incredibly valuable Saturday evening. Tim made a couple of calls to us in the midst of the storm, trying to relay information, valuable information in real time, trying to help folks keep out of the brunt of the storm that slashed through. Not, there was a tornado in Clarksville. I'm not taking anything away from that earlier in the day, but this one just north of city proper, slashing through Madison, jumping over the Cumberland, getting into Hendersonville, and then eventually making its way toward Gallatin. It's my understanding they are surveying Gallatin today, and they're trying to figure out exactly how long this thing was on the ground. We will report that back to you presently on Super Talk 99.7 WTN as soon as the information becomes available to us. Did you see that Sheila Jackson Lee lost, which is pretty funny?
That's sad. Now Houston's going to have to deal with somebody sane.
Yeah, right. Somehow Sheila Jackson Lee managed to lose election as mayor of Houston by it was like 65% to 35%. It was not close. It is what I expect that Marsha Blackburn will lose. That percentage will be about what I expect Blackburn will lose to Gloria Johnson will lose to Marsha Blackburn, not the other way around. Marsha Blackburn will dispatch of Gloria Johnson in their Senate run. I expect it'll be about the same line, 65 to 35%. That's about right. And you know what? Houston's more red than Dallas, isn't it? I don't know Texas politics that well, but I think that's right. I don't think it's red, but I think it's more red than Dallas.
When I lived there, it was the other way around. Houston was very blue compared to Dallas-Fort Worth. But that's been 20 years.
A while back.
Yeah.
I want to say that because of the oil and the industry that is in and around Houston, they're a little more red than the Dallas area. But one or the other, no one red's going to make their way to the mayor's office. I don't presume that. But thankfully, Sheila Jackson Lee will not be making her way to the mayor's office.
Yeah, she's just flat out crazy. I don't care what office you put her in. The woman is nuts.
Yeah, a little bit of nuts and a little bit of dumb, and you add those two things together, and that's what you get. You get Sheila Jackson Lee. She's the one, I think this is right. She was touring an astronomy facility with a school class, elementary school field trip. And they were showing off the telescope. And one of the kids asked if you could see Mars. And I think I have this about right. So the astronomer said, yes, you can see Mars. And Sheila Jackson Lee wanted to know, this is real. Bell snorted. Bell snorted in anticipation. When Bell realized what the story was, he snorted. She wanted to know from the astronomer if the telescope was powerful enough to see the flag that we had placed on Mars when we went to Mars.
The woman's insane.
Yeah, and I don't know what the aftermath of all of that was, but suffice it to say that they never were able to train the telescope on Mars. They were never able to find. You know what? I'm beginning to believe that we never even went to Mars. I don't think that we ever planted our flag on Mars. I'm one of the conspiracy theorists.
There was also a rumor that she asked that back when Mars had oceans, if the islands tended to tip over a lot.
That was old Hank Johnson out of Georgia, who is in if you've never seen this, you can find the reported exchange between Sheila Jackson Lee and this astronomer regarding the flag on Mars. You could also find the documentation of Representative Hank Johnson out of the Atlanta, Georgia area, explaining that if we continue to allow Marine Corps military operations on Guam, that Guam will tip. He said the problem is if you have all of that artillery and all of those munitions and all of that military equipment and all of those forces. We're not making this up, by the way. If you have all of that on one side of the island, that the island will tip and potentially tip over.
I mean, how hard is it to understand that an island is simply the peak of a mountain that pokes out above the water?
It's apparently more difficult than you would imagine because Hank Johnson out of Georgia hasn't figured it out. He's still in Congress. If you want to know what lemmings Democrats truly are, he was not joking. 9058 says, I thought he was joking. Bell, see if you can't find it. See if you can't find it.
He was deadly serious. He was
dead serious. Mr. Anti-Military, it was like his first or second year in Congress, and he continues to get reelected to Congress. Jason says, when I lived in Houston, it was very blue. I understand Houston's going to be bluer than the rest of the state of Texas. I just don't I don't think they're quite as blue as Dallas, but I could be wrong. I could have that backward, as a matter of fact. Yeah, Hank Johnson, Tim writes in and says, Hank Johnson actually used the word capsize, as in this thing's going to tip up. I mean, as if an island is an iceberg just randomly floating in the ocean, floating here, there, and everywhere, just waiting for the weight to get too great onto one side of it or the other and waiting to capsize. There you go. In the meantime, I want to tell you about this story. This is the one that I've been wanting to get to. I had a fabulous opportunity to sit down and break bread with Jeff Roy yesterday afternoon, and I want to thank my good friend Norm Parton. Norm and I have spoken quite a bit about Nashville, Tennessee, and I told Norm's wife, that I liked him a lot, not just because of his level of expertise, knowledge of history of the city of Nashville and the surrounding communities, but also he's a pretty good guy in and of himself. And Norm tipped me off on this situation at Roy Meat Service, and then I saw a story about it in the Tennessean, and I wanted to go check it out for myself. And so I went out. Bell, I strongly recommend the ribs. I don't know if you're a rib guy, but those smoked ribs, oh my goodness gracious, so good. So Jeff Roy, and his first name's Jeff, last name Roy, but I'm always going to call him Jeff Roy because that's the way we do things in the South, especially if you have two names that short.
He's the guy with blonde hair, right?
Blonde, it's like strawberry.
Yeah,
like reddish blonde. I wouldn't describe him as a ginger, so don't judge him as such, Bell, but he's no redheaded stranger, but he's, strawberry. So Jeff Roy has been in meat service for a long time, and he can tell you the story better than me, and he's going to be on later on in the week. His father knew the owner of like a little grocery / convenience store where he has now located Roy Meat Service. He worked for Nashville, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's like Nashville Meat Company or Nashville Wholesale Meats. He worked for that company for a number of years until they eventually went out of business. And it's when he decided to go out on his own and create Roy Meat Service. I'm kind of mangling the backstory, but it's all to an end. But he grew up in East Nashville, has lived all of his life in East Nashville, has loved East Nashville all of his life. And he opened the store in East Nashville on 19th Street South because he loves East Nashville so much. He is a butcher. He sources his meat as locally as he possibly can. He was telling us about how he does his ground beef yesterday, which was fascinating. We'll talk with him more about that when he comes in. But he's been there. He bought the business in around 2015. He's been there almost 9 years now. And since he has been selling meat out of the store, he also sells, it's like a local grocery. It's more than a convenience store, but it's less than a grocery store. It's something in between. If you have a necessity to pick up and you live in East Nashville, you know what it really does? It prevents these food deserts that the liberals like to tell us all about. They complain about food deserts all the time. Get very frustrated with food deserts. There's no grocery stores in our area. There's nowhere to go buy fresh produce or whatever. Roy is there. Jeff Roy's there in an attempt to provide that service to the community.
It's literally like because I went on Friday and picked myself up a strip steak. And it's literally like a convenience store meets small restaurant meets butcher shop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, if you want to go in and just buy a soda,
you can
just go in and buy a soda. Or if you want to go in and get lunch on a plate, you can do that too. Or if you just want to go buy a single steak or a couple of steaks, you can do that.
It reminded me of a place that my grandpa and I used to go to get fried bologna sandwiches, and they also have fried bologna sandwiches at Roy Meat Service. So they serve cooked food that you can take out. Most of their stuff is takeout. They have a little patio area. They were selling Christmas. You see the Christmas trees they were selling? Selling Christmas trees over there.
Where were they?
They were on the if you're facing the store on the left-hand side where the patio is, those were little those trees, he was selling those as Christmas trees.
Oh, I didn't
got them staked out. But well, let me give you a little of the backstory, and I won't ruin the story for when Jeff Roy comes on the show. But I'm curious your thoughts about this. It is a microcosm of liberalism. It is a microcosm of the woke left demanding not that you accept their way of life, but they demand that you conform to their way of life. So Jeff Roy has run Roy's Meat Service. They've smoked meats. They've cooked food on grills and smokers for the last almost 9 years, serving their community. When COVID was around, Jeff Roy was virtually the only place that people in their community could go and get food. When the tornadoes hit, Jeff Roy did not have power. I want you to listen to this story real quick and closely. Whatever you're doing, hang in. This is important. This is the type of guy we're talking about. He was born in East Nashville. He grew up in East Nashville. His father did business in East Nashville. His father knew the man that formerly 19th Street since the 19th.